Now, we've been doing some paint work on Turbo Steve's Turbo Suzuki XN85. We've been working on it on and off as time is available. He actually got a parts bike, and I don't know if the final thing is he's going to put all these parts on his daily driver or make a separate bike. I know he has extra titles, and he's certainly talented enough to build a bike up from parts. So it'll be interesting to see in a short time. We hopefully get some pictures of this project that we've worked on for a long time now. I'll get some final pictures. But anyway, in the meantime, today's project, we want to get the clear coating on it. I wanted to share some good basic 101 clear coating information. We're going to use a brand new spray gun. And among other things, there's a couple little tips that I've included on most of the tutorial videos. But they are the basic 101s of doing good paint work, even if you're new to painting and new to spraying. Now, in today's video, we're going to try to finish up Steve's XN85 project. We have to put the clear on the rest of the parts. We've already done this in bits and pieces. I don't know if he has any other parts, but at the end of this, he will have a whole bike painted. We want to try to finish that up today. We've been working around some crazy weather and other things going on, but today we hope we can finish the project for him. Now, in a perfect world, it would be 70 degrees. It's about 40. It's perfectly good for painting, but I see there's black clouds moving in, so I'm going to try to get this job on, get it going, baby. Now, on a previous video, Steve got all the stickers, the decals, the stripes. These were all made by Dale's daughter on her Cricut machine, and these have worked out well in the past. But you never know. See, here's the whole thing: you never know till you have the clear on that you're not gonna have some kind of issue or fish eyes or whatever. The parts are perfectly clean. They're ready to paint. I'm ready to mix the paint and try to beat this weather. Now, Steve has donated a brand new gun, Harbor Freight gun. Now, the reason for this is because the other gun I have has had his paint, the paint that's this color, and this type of paint, and this is a good tip, it leaves sometimes a little residue of the sparkles in there, and I don't want to get the sparkles up onto the parts, or on this part, say, where you would really see it. So I'm being real careful. He's being real cautious. This is a collector bike that you just can't go to Partzilla and get parts. And if you did, they're expensive. So we're going to try to do the best job we can on this and get the clear on today. So some good general tips, and this is really good information. If you have a compressor, at the end of every job, bleed out all the air, rock it back and forth. You'll notice usually a little bit of rust will come out. And then leave that little petcock on the bottom open. That allows the less chance the moisture is going to build up in there. Otherwise, it's a sealed thing and you wind up with moisture every time. So every time I spray, especially clear, I want to drain the tank. If there's anything in there, let it run for a few minutes with the petcock open, and usually a couple of drops will still come out. Seal the petcock, then let it build up pressure. And this is the gun we use. You can see the silver is still up here. So what happens is, if I clean this gun, no matter how many times I clean it, and I can run a whole gallon of acetone through it, there's still a big problem. And every once in a while, one of those little sparkles will stay up here. So it's cheap insurance. If you have something you really treasure, just buy another gun. They're under 20 bucks. This is always a common question. What kind of clear do you like? Well, I found not a lot of difference. This is Gavco's clear. We use the fast hardener. Fast hardener, no matter what brand you use, it's 4-to-1. Always wear a mask when you use this, and always wear gloves. Now, this is another really good tip. Any hardener that you're not using, and this is the hardener that we use on 3 different kinds of clear, by the way, and they're all pretty good. I haven't found a giant difference in any one of them, but always leave it in the refrigerator. It makes the shelf life a lot longer. Not in the freezer, in the refrigerator. And that tip is from Bob Brookins. Now, all the parts have been wiped down gently with M600, not flooded, just a damp paper towel with some M600 degreaser, just to get any fingerprints off. Now, it's always a good idea when you get a brand new gun is run a little bit of acetone through it, maybe a half of a cup. Clean the parts. Sometimes there's some machining oil or something inside there, and then you wind up with a fisheye somewhere. But
I have found these guns, all of them, they have two bad things. They leak at the lid sometimes, especially when you get old. And if you don't leave the tip and that little spraying nozzle in a cup of acetone when you're not using it, it can get clogged up, and then you've got to get in there with that little brush they give you and a wire and everything. It's just as easy to keep it clean. When I'm done, I clean it with acetone, take the tip off, and leave it in a jar of acetone. But otherwise, for very low money, these are really good guns. So what I'm going to do is mix up enough material that I can get 2, sometimes 3 coats on the part. About 20 minutes between coats is the best. And the thing that's critical, that's really good information on any of these painting issues, especially when you have the bigger gun. Now, I have used both, and I'm comfortable with both. The bigger gun, you can set the fan to spray wider. But the temptation you never want to fall into is to try to paint these parts like it's a car. When just blow it on. I have it set so it just is, it's very low pressure, 25 psi, sometimes 20 if I can get away with it on a hot day. Low pressure and very, very little paint going out. It's almost painting like an airbrush. Now, depending on the temperature, and it's cold out there today, but it's not below freezing, so we're going to try to mix up a normal batch, 4-to-1. Shake the gun a little bit, tape that lid so we don't run any chance, and that's where they usually, new ones usually are pretty good, but when they get old, I don't know what dries out in there. But they do drip parts, but I try to never have the part underneath. I don't spray up and down. I always try to spray, and it's important, side to side. And the only thing they don't give you when you have a brand new gun, they don't give you that little fitting that links up to the compressor. So I always have to steal one from one of the other spray guns. I have about 20 spray guns. Each one has a dedicated color, and I try to constantly get new clear guns to make sure they're perfectly clear. Now, because this is a brand new gun, it's set from the factory. The needle is way too far out. Usually you have to go in until a gun stops spraying and then back out about a turn to a turn and a half. But it's like jetting a 2-stroke. You've got to tinker around. And the fan, I want to get the fan right about in the middle. Not the widest, not the narrowest. Kind of a simple thing. And then do a little test part before I actually do the real parts. Now this is going to be in real time. It'll be 2 or 3 minutes. But you'll notice, these are things to notice. My hand never comes off the trigger. I spray in midair. It's not near the part. And that is because sometimes any gun is prone to just spit out a glob of paint that's hardened on the end, and then you have a part you have to sand out on the next coat of clear. But what happens here, and of course Henry Hawk reminded me, get plenty of paint down in those fins. Well, Henry, we do. You're a very observant guy. So the other thing here is I'm spraying lightly. This is almost like a big airbrush. Very little materials going on. I'm going back and forth 8, 10, 15 times. I can tell by looking at it just about when I have the right amount on. I'm not trying to get it all on in one coat. I'm willing to pay the price. I'll put the rest of the spray part things on and fast forward just to make the video not so long. But this is the part, this is the tip that's worth watching a whole video on. Watch it. I never take my finger off the trigger. That trigger is on until I'm done with the part. Now at the end of each part on each coat, I'll candle it. That means I'm looking up into the sun, using it like you would look for a reflection to see if I have any fish eyes, any runs, anything I don't want to have. Then I take it out under fluorescent light in the shop. Look at it in the shop under fluorescent light. That usually shows mistakes that you wouldn't see in the sun. Then I'll look at it from a lot of different angles. Not just look at it with the light in one direction. And sometimes you see something, and if it's perfect, you're good to go. Now you can see I hit the trigger. When it's not near the part, this is in fast forward, so maybe you didn't see it in real life. And then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, 8, 10, 15 times, very, very light. Many light coats. And I know Paul watched the video, and he picked right up on that, said he's going to that full time. Well, Paul, you and a lot of people, I mean, that's the whole idea of having this channel, is we try to share tips and information. Something that might work for you, something that'll work for me. If we share it, we both win. It's kind of a win-win-win. And there's more than one way to do this. I'm sure there's professional painters that can paint these parts like a car. I like painting them Takes a little more time, but I get really nice results. Now, one thing we really lucked out at, and I mean, this is a big break for me. It makes it doing these parts a lot easier. I wasn't doing it in the middle of a hurricane, or the sky got blue and nice in the afternoon, and I gave plenty of time between coats, and that's the whole secret. The secret, yet it's hard to explain to anybody how patient, if you're patient, it pays such big dividends. And in between coats, you can go have a cup of coffee, you can go do whatever, go shopping. But when you try to rush things, that's when you always have a problem. Now, by getting each one of these coats on thin, on very low pressure, and with a new gun, there's almost no chance we're going to have any contamination or fisheye issues. And again, it's a long, bumpy road, very time consuming to do it this way, as opposed to painting a car with a big giant gun. But at the end, you always have something special. So as I'm getting to the end of the day here on this second coat, the day played out beautifully. I just couldn't believe. Not a lot of wind. Temperature was right around, hovering around 40 degrees. And that usually makes for the paint laying out real nice. When these parts are done and the second coat is on, I'm going to leave them in the garage overnight, usually even for an extra 24 hours. It'll take that much time in this temperature to outgas, and then bring them in and put them by a heating vent for a day before Steve picks them up, because I want the paint hard before there's any chance you're going to stick your fingernail into it. Now, I've tried to put some basic 101 information, good quality things that have taken me over 60 years of painting to figure out. And because I'm self-taught, I basically learned everything the hard way. And I do appreciate when people send me tips, like Bob Brookins and many other people that have shared information that's been useful to me. And I'm more than happy to share it with other people, the enthusiasts that have a passion for motorcycling like I do, and of course Turbo Steve and everybody in the A-Team. We all try to help each other, and it's a wonderful way to enjoy the sport of motorcycling. Even at the meetups, there's always some good humor going on and somebody giving somebody a hard time. Now, I know Steve, when he gets to the first meetup with this bike, with all the new paint parts, everybody's going to be oogling his bike, and he'll probably win another trophy or a free cup of coffee or whatever. But we worked on this all day. It was absolutely time well spent. I just couldn't think of the disappointment when you find a shortcut to take. It's almost never worth taking shortcuts. So looking back, it's fun to see how we originally started some of these parts, and some of them came in prime. Some of them came ready to paint, and Steve's getting to be real good at prepping these parts. These parts really did come out perfect. There isn't a fisheye on the whole part, or any of those things that happen when you don't hold the trigger down before you paint and work your way onto the part. That's good information. And we did a lot of work on this bike, and I think every step of the way we were patient about it. The quality speaks for itself. All of those videos are on my channel. You type my name in quotation marks and then XN85, and every one of those videos will come up. You'll have about 5 hours of enjoyable watching, and I hope you did enjoy the video. And thanks so much for watching.